Let's see, did I do a video on Harlequins?
Yes, actually, near when I first joined you.
Oh. Huh. Tactical dreadnought armor?
A long time ago, I think 2 years ago? Maybe more?
Oh, wow. What about just normal dreadnoughts?
Almost 3 years ago. Wow. You going through a list of themes to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about equipment. Oh, knights!
Yes, relatively recently.
Shit, there's a new knight model just announced, and I have some theories about it, but there seems to be nothing more about the skeleton. It's a whole new skeleton, so we've not gotten any sort of stories about the chassis. Bellatus class knight from Forge World Agrippina. Huh. We've actually gotten a lot of stuff about this Forge World. Cadia stands, 2 Adeptus Mechanicus codices for 7th and 8th edition, the Eye of Terror 3rd edition codex. Honestly, a lot.
Is that going to be your subject for today?
Honestly, no. It's a Forge World that was tasked specifically with arming Cadia and pissed off Iron Warriors. They failed that one job, and they seem to be at least decent at the other job. Hey, did I do power armor?
Yeah, that too. What about various different firearms or melee weapons across the galaxy?
You son of a bitch, that's actually a good idea. I'll do it. Melee weapons. Fun fact about this word. I only read the word for a huge portion of my life, and called it melee. But that's another thing entirely, and not important at all. It's just a fun fact about my personal retardation. Now, the Imperium of Man of various different factions, the Xenos factions, and even the Chaos crews, got different subcategories of close-quarter combat weapons. I'll talk about the basic design of the various weapons and what their primary purpose was. I'll skip a few things because I don't think the Doom Lance has ever been used in the tabletop. You know what? I'll probably say something about it, but not much. But there are some medieval things here that I'll just skip over. Let's start with the Imperium and go in alphabetical order. I'm pretty sure I'm only going to talk about the Imperium, but I will dip into other faction weapons through them. And first on our list will be the combat knife. These things are essentially equivalent to a hunting knife I bought when I was 16, I think? I want to say, maybe younger. They're not great weapons, but when you're carrying a big fuck-off gun and can't pull a sword out easily, these are your best bet. Used by all factions of the Imperium of Man, along with the other races and factions of the galaxy, it's the ultimate sign of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And why would they fix what's essentially the simplest creation in the history of the universe? There's variations of the knives, from the shurikens, the katachan knives, and whatever the hell the orcs got, and more, but a knife is a knife, which will shorten this list actually quite a bit. Chain weapons are up next. They include a long list themselves: chain swords, chain axes, chain blades, chain fists, chain flail? That seems rather dangerous. Chain glaives, chain hammer? Really? And various variations of those things too. For example, there's a specific elemental type of chain swords, and one slightly modified for certain things. Everything in the Imperium uses these to tear through flesh and ceramite armor, weaken psychics through the multifaceted attacks of a single swing, and such. Anything tough, a chain weapon will blast through. There's even more variations for the other factions as well. Even knights get chainsword options. But so do the Imperial Guard, the Inquisitors, the Sisters of Battle. I think the Custodes used to have chain glaive options too, but I can't find that information, so I won't take it as law. Of course, the Chaos factions have variations of these toothy chained weapons too. They essentially just curve the teeth and add some spikes. Sometimes some psychics will come in play, but not much else. But force weapons, these are cool. If it's a psychic, it's probably got a force weapon. Of course, these weapons are a problem in the current 10th edition of Warhammer 40k. Psychic is not a buff in the current game, it's a negative, because having the psychic ability means certain enemies will be immune or resistant to them. Most have some extra stuff on them, like devastating wounds, but psychic itself doesn't actually add anything. But they are often more powerful than most other weapon options. I will almost always take them, but I also like to take them because I like to be on theme. Power weapons are like force weapons, but don't use the mind, they use gas! Not a whole lot use these. I think just things in power armor, despite not being connected to anything to fuel them. They're supposed to have a fuel though. Shock weapons are primarily used by the Adeptus Arbites, though the Sisters of Battle have some too, and the Astartes use them for torture, along with a few Inquisitors, but I don't need to explain what a stun baton is, let's be honest. Transonic weapons are Skitarii weapons, mostly used by the Ruststalkers. They're essentially swords that shake the body they touch until the flesh and armor tears apart. That sounds painful. Holy shit, what do you mean they make claws out of these? You know that scene in Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon is cutting open a door? That's a breaching auger. Bulkhead shears do the same thing, but for the outside of ships. Both of these previous ones are primarily used by the Death Watch for more invasive kill team missions. Seriously, we need a Space Hulk game that lets you play as the Death Watch. Imagine getting different bonuses for taking different first chapters into your kill team. That would be so fun. Doomlance, which I said I wasn't going to talk about, but I am, is apparently a thing put on squat vehicles, but we've not had squats in the Imperium since 2nd edition, I want to say, so skipping that. Hunting Lance, however, is a cool thing used by Rough Riders. These things can have shaped explosives on the tip, so even if they don't hit you, you still lose a part of your 3-inch thick hull. They've also have variations of these. These things are so cool. I want my Space Marines and Custodes bikers to have these. We'll skip the normal melee weapons, axes, clubs, flails, hammers, halberds, spears, and swords. You know what these are. Everyone has a variation of them. Even the ancient cultures all had clubs. There's still clubs nowadays for some reason, though apparently there's a 3-to-1 women to men disparity in them. Then we've got the Grok's Whip, also known as the "Oh my god, why does your flail have a flail? What do you mean you also beat yourself with these? What's wrong with you?" Whip! The 3 variations of these are the Electro Whip, the Neuro Whip, and the Orcish Grot Whip. Despite being named after the Groks, a reptile that was raised as livestock for food and leather, it's more likely named after how the Groks looked, and this weapon is primarily used by the Sisters of Battle. You know, they have a whole unit or two that replace their hands with these things for some reason. I should do a video on the Penitent someday. There's several of those. Probably will get that video hidden, but I do this for the fun of it. Shove off.